Okay, we are live. Miss McGrath.
Good morning.
Good morning. I think we'll just give it a little bit of time for folks to cycle in. The counter slowly ticking up here. Yeah, folks who are already in the room, we were just talking, there's a massive Easter egg hunt going on here on campus this morning. So a group of students just tore past my window. If you hear some cheering, means they found one of the, what was it, 36 golden egg prizes.
Yes.
Like trips to town, you get to skip breakfast, sign in, like things like that. So
I was making breakfast in my kitchen this morning, and two boys ran through my backyard and stopped to talk to me, and they were holding an egg, and they had just found out it had a $25 Walmart gift certificate, and they were thrilled. They were each going to get to spend $12.50 of it.
6 cases of Walmart soda or something.
Yeah, it was declared a very good Easter egg. So
great. Well, it looks like we've leveled off a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I am Matt Walensky, Director of Admission at St. Andrews. It's so great to see so many of the faces that we've really come to see several times over the last month at Visit Back Days, and of course, see the names of students and parents that we've gotten to know through the admissions process. It's April 8th, and what we're here to do today is just frame the St. Andrews experience a little bit again for those of you down to that last decision-making family time. Thrilled to see so many names of folks who have committed to St. Andrews. Welcome. We're excited to talk to you, and we're especially excited to be together with those still considering. So really, we're gonna have this be sort of an open session to a certain degree. We're not gonna talk at you too much. We want to take your questions. We want to know what's on your mind as you're making your final decisions or starting to think about next fall. So at any point, if you want to put a question in the Q&A, please do. I'll be sort of moderating and passing off to our 2 wonderful panelists, Will Robinson, class of 97, Dean of Admissions, and Joy McGrath, class of 92, head of school. So Joy, I thought maybe just if you want to do a welcome, and then we'll open the floor.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. And thanks, Will, for being here. Welcome to all of you. So happy you're here. We have loved getting to know you as part of this class that we're admitting, both in Visit Back Days and reading your applications. And I hope you've gotten to love our special school as much as we love you. The 3 of us that you see here have been working really carefully to put together this class that we're really excited about. And the reason we have done that is because we love St. Andrews. You won't find 3 people who love this school more than the 3 of us. And we believe in the school, we believe in the school's mission, and we believe it really matters. It matters in the world, it matters to us. And that's why you're here. And that mission that St. Andrews has to educate a really diverse group of young people, to nurture them, to believe in them, to push them. That's why you're here. We want to be able to go through that process with you in your high school career. We believe that you can do great things, and I believe the world needs you to do great things. And you'll be a great part of this culture where we work hard together to do really difficult things that none of us could do by ourselves alone, but that together we can accomplish. And so, as Mr. Walensky said, the purpose of this call is just to answer any remaining questions you have before you take this plunge. So welcome, and I look forward to answering questions.
Great. Will, anything you want to add to frame before we start taking some questions as they pop in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just to welcome everyone. It's really wonderful to see so many people actually on this webinar right now who have already committed to come to St. Andrews next year. It's really exciting. The class is pretty much well put together at this point. We're still waiting for a handful of folks. So if you're still thinking about it, we also want to make sure that in addition to this, you may have already heard directly from me or Matt or any member of the admissions team. You are welcome to reach out to us anytime. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you at your convenience. So as Ms. McGrath said, we chose this class very, very carefully, and we are very willing to continue to have conversations with those of you who are still thinking about joining us. So please do if you need it.
Great. Well, as we're all together, like I said, if you want to drop some questions into the chat, I see a couple that have come from folks who are on the call via email directly to me. So maybe I can just start with one of the first one, which is about, if you're anything like I was in the spring of 1996, when I was admitted, I was 90% excited and 10% worried. And I think for my mom, it was the reverse about the idea of me going to boarding school. And so the first question is just about transition to the environment. How is St. Andrews going to welcome my child next fall?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am happy to say I think we do this better than any school. From the moment you arrive on move-in day, there are seniors at the end of the driveway welcoming you with signs and cheers. My husband and I are usually standing up by the gym, which is where everybody comes through and registers, and we hear the shouts at the end of the driveway, and about 4 minutes later, the family appears at the gym. So it's a great early warning system for those of us who are greeting you. And from that moment, you get swooped up by a big brother or sister. You get moved into the dorm, and that night we have the square dance, which I think a lot of you have heard about, just so that everybody in the whole community is mixing together. But in addition to those things, I mean, you're meeting your advisor who's going to be checking in with you frequently. We've got a wonderful team of teachers and academic advisors and form advisors for third form, fourth form, fifth form, and sixth form. We're just making sure that everybody, the way is smoothed into the school. We do a lot of dorm functions in the beginning of the year, so you're getting to know that all important residential group. And clubs and activities are getting started, teams are getting started. Those are all important parts of integrating into the school. And then very quickly, about 6 or 7 weeks into the year, we have family weekend where parents and other family members can come and do parent-teacher conferences, hear one-on-one from every single teacher how students are doing. And all of that is an important part of that on-ramp. There are a lot of weekend activities at St. Andrews every weekend, but the ones for the first 4 to 6 weeks of the academic year are really designed to build that community and get to know all the new members of the community. Probably the most famous one of those is the Frosty Run, which is a little inscrutable to people who aren't part of the community, because all it is that we all get on buses and we go to a Wendy's and order a Frosty. But that is an amazing bonding experience, and students go in buses by forms and really get to know each other. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, the front lawn is a really important mixing bowl for the whole school, and it's how we all really get to know each other. I was out there last night, and it was a ball. So those are just some of the ways we kind of get our arms around all of our new students and welcome them into the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fun early in the year. There's some good energy, and then somewhat weather tied as well. The winter energy at St. Andrews, while good, is sort of winter, and now the leaves and flowers are out, Joy, and that front lawn energy is back, right?
It's intense. It's fantastic. Will, did you have something to add to that one?
No, I keep thinking about what you said about the front lawn, and just sitting in my office here yesterday afternoon, really into the evening, where the men's crew program was out here at the end of practice playing kickball, and it was a pretty spirited game, and it was all I wanted to do was go out there and join them, but I was here at my desk. But yes, no, certainly the students just embrace each other pretty quickly. In large part, I answered this question recently with a family, in large part because for many students, it's exciting to be around other students who love school and just like they do, or who are driven or ambitious. I mean, I think a lot of students who I've interviewed this year talk about, being in group projects and, being the person in the group that constantly has to do the work and keep the group together. And when you come to St. Andrews, it's pretty exciting to be around folks who are also like that and really want to work hard, as you said at the beginning, to do something you couldn't do by yourself. Yeah. And it actually kind of leads into Stephanie's good question.
Yeah. There's just a great admission stat question for the year: how many states and countries were represented in the admitted group? And it's kind of a cool record-breaking year to answer that question. So we admitted students from 14 US states, 7 countries, and for the first time ever, all 6 permanently habited continents. Nobody from Antarctica yet, but you can't be a citizen of Antarctica. So I guess it counts, right? We covered the globe. So including a few on this call. So welcome all the way from Australia, from China, Germany on this call, a little bit of everybody. We're excited to represent the globe at St. Andrews. And then I think that's adding to 28 states and 13 countries who are already here. So it is a global school in a lot of ways.
There's obviously some overlap there, but it'll I think both of those categories will increase.
Absolutely. Next great question. And Joy and Will, but both very involved, as we all are, with the athletics program. What's the vision for athletics moving forward? What's the balance between, competition and robust, well-rounded experience?
I love this question. Thank you for asking it. We are investing in athletics at the school and building athletics at the school. And the reason is because it supports the educational objectives we have for students. So what we expect is when students leave here, they can stand on their own 2 feet in any number of ways. They know what they're about. They understand what they can do. They understand how to grow and engage in that growth. And the skills that we're building in the classroom, in the dorm, and in athletics are, creativity, teamwork, critical reasoning, managing our emotions, helping, recognizing other people's emotions and channeling those. Something important I learned in this, I was not an athlete when I came to St. Andrews. I came as a junior. It was probably the thing I was most intimidated about, was having to join sports teams. But I learned so much about teamwork and problem solving through sports here. And I think what a lot of us learn from athletics, and it was certainly true for me, is we're capable of things we don't know we're capable of. And in the sports program, what I hope for every student is that they learn how to go through walls, because we need that in our lives. And, obviously we want people to be able to live healthy lives and balanced lives. I was talking to an alumnus this morning who's here for crew races, class of 75. He lives in the DC area. And I had been earlier in the year down in Charlottesville, Virginia, having dinner with our 14 students who are at the University of Virginia. After the terrible shooting that they had at the university, I went down with my husband. We took everybody out for dinner. And 2 girls were sitting next to me who were rowers at St. Andrews, and they were moving to DC. And they were trying to figure out how to get involved and build a community in DC when they got there from University of Virginia. And I said, well, you're rowers, so you're in luck, because there's great rowing and boathouses down in the Washington area. And it's a way you can connect with people throughout your life. So how are we going to do that? We are investing. I've hired a new athletic director. Maybe some of you had the chance to meet Neil Cunningham, who came to us from Washington and Lee University. And there, he was the girls' soccer coach, but he also ran their academic requirement. WNL is one of the few colleges that still has a requirement for phys ed to graduate. So he ran that department. And so I wanted Neil here because he's an educator. First and foremost, he's an educator. And he understands those skills we build in athletics that support us in every part of our lives. So it is about being competitive and competition. And of course, the object of competition is to win, right? But I am very focused on what are those fundamental skills that we're building in young people as well, that they're going to need in the world. And we're a school of 315. So this is always a challenge building these teams. But what I've learned in my time at St. Andrews is that students surprise us with what they can accomplish and how they can grow and change in the athletic department just by engaging in it for many students for the first time. And they find out I can be a wide receiver, or I can, be a long stick midi. And that's an incredible, it's incredible to give students that gift of accomplishment and to feel I can do things I didn't know I could do, that they carry with them in their lives. And so that's what we're hoping to do and build. We've got outstanding coaches who are also faculty members. And so our students are seeing those coaches around the school as role models and as teachers in the classroom and dorm parents on dorm. And that's really important to me. And I'm in the hiring season right now, and I'm looking for great teachers who are great coaches. it just so happens that in adults, those skill sets support each other too. When you're on the fields or on the pond, you're teaching. And when you're in the classroom, you're coaching. Those are mutually supported. And so finding those people to be role models for our students is absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's Will, I know that's someone who's out on the sidelines of just about every competition that St. Andrews offers will enjoy our cheering for our athletes to accomplish all those goals. And, you know, I think it's also just a vision for athletics when we get to those, you know, state finals for cross country, or those, you know, those big night games for soccer. Those big races like we'll have today. I love how the whole school turns out. Like, it's just part of the spirit of the place as well.
Yeah, the whole place just lifts. We won a state championship in girls cross country this year, and the way the whole school went up to the race course and just supported those girls who were running. If you know cross country, you know it's not necessarily a spectator sport. All I can tell you is that no one at St. Andrews cared. We were the greatest cross country spectators in the history of the sport. And there was actually an article in the Wilmington News Journal about our spectators and how phenomenal that moment was. But that's what we do. We show up for each other. And in that way, the most important thing we're doing here is building community, and sports are essential for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Next great question. What's to do for fun on the weekends? How do we spend our downtime?
Fun is great, and we do love downtime, and it's really important, and rest is great, and sleep is great, and we talk to kids about that, and we try to practice what we preach as well. And so weekends are a great time to just recharge, however you do that. So I can hear kids playing on the front lawn right now. There are kids running around all over the trails looking for Easter eggs, because we're having a campus-wide Easter egg hunt. We have trips to museums. I'm taking a group of students next weekend to the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia. A lot of our students come to us with kind of mid-Atlantic Philadelphia area bucket lists, and the Barnes Foundation's often on it. We go to concerts. Some students are going to a play in Philadelphia tonight. We have a lot of activities on campus, whether that's a game night or a tournament of some kind. We had a school-wide dodgeball competition last weekend in the gym, which was gladiatorial, if that's a word. Truly amazing, just sheer joy. There's no other way to put that. We have a lot of sports competitions on the weekends as well. Generally, we almost always have chapel on Sunday morning, which is a wonderful occasion for us to gather as a community and think about really important questions about how we want to be and who we want to be, both individually and as a community. And people really take advantage of this beautiful campus we have. The waterfront will open soon. We'll have sailboats and canoes and stand-up paddle boards all over the pond. There's a group of students right now who are planning a 1-mile swim in the pond. They're swimmers and rowers. So they want to jump in the pond back on the starting docks where the crew races start, and they want to swim the entire race course. And we have it's going to be great. We have the frogmen from the Delaware State Police coming. They train in our pond, and they want to support that event. So I think, you know, we do things that are expected and unexpected, but the most important thing is that the students organize it. So form by form every weekend. I believe this weekend, the 4th form, the 10th graders plan the weekend. And they plan it, they get up and explain it to everybody. They do all the background work to make it happen. And that's actually a great leadership opportunity for students, and a way to really be part of leading the community building that happens weekend to weekend. It's almost too many things to explain. And I don't know if either Matt or Will wants to jump in with thoughts, but I love weekends here. They're wonderful.
Yeah, I think you said it really well, Joy, about especially the piece about the students driving the weekends, and planning and organizing them, and then executing and then supporting those events. And so it can be odd sometimes, like the Frosty Run, which you mentioned earlier, is certainly just an odd thing. We do it intentionally in our first full weekend here, in part because we sort of say that this is a place where you can actually, just being together and being with each other and being curious about it and learning from each other and just having fun with each other is oftentimes just enough. If anyone's just sort of sat around with 4 other people in a circle and just talked for hours, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And people who have gone to summer camps where there's no technology know what I'm talking about when I describe this. So right now I'm thinking about whether or not I'm able to take a bunch of students to go see a monster truck rally. There's one in Baltimore that I think is actually already going to happen, but then there's actually one in Sussex County here in Delaware that's coming up. And I feel like the one in Sussex County might be a little bit more interesting than the one that's in Baltimore, because it'll be a different kind of vibe. But yeah, I think just being together is oftentimes more than enough, and it's fun to see what they come up with. I have a picture in my office here that a student took of a silent disco that happens usually one of the first weekends of the year, where the students just have their headphones on and there's 2 DJs, two student DJs, and you sort of go back and forth between the songs, and just seeing them all together in the Garth, just jumping up and down and just having fun, letting off steam is great.
Yeah, and I'll just conclude that just by saying, like, all that sounds really busy. And, if you're like me and the idea of like dancing around the library with 150 other people makes you a little anxious, there's great diversity of things to do on the weekends. And one of the best ones is just going for a walk. There's miles and miles and miles of trails here. And I love when, a group of freshmen will just set out one Sunday afternoon to circumnavigate the pond, and they'll come back 4 hours later just caked in mud, and they've had great conversations along the way. So but there was a nice little segue in there to a question that's come up. So we have a head of school who firmly believes in this, a dean of admissions and former dean of student life who believes in this. Could we just clarify the cell phone policy and sort of what our philosophy is around that in general?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So our cell phone policy, which has been in place for a long time, and which is very much owned by the students here, is that cell phones stay in rooms. We don't carry them around the campus. We don't wear earbuds. But they are not in your room from 7:45 at night when we start cleanup in study hall, basically until the next morning. They're checked into the hall, into a series of pockets. If you know those dollar store shoe trees, everybody's phone goes in a pocket. It's over a plug so it can charge. So if you come to St. Andrews, you do need to buy an alarm clock to wake yourself up in the morning. And the reason we do that is because this place is all about building relationships. When we have a cell phone or a device in front of us, or we're mediating our relationships through social media, we know that is not a meaningful way to build relationships, and it's not a joyful way to live. And that is what enables a lot of the things we were just talking about in terms of weekends and other things, because we would not be playing blob or volleyball or Foursquare on the front lawn if we were on our devices. And so it does mean, parents, that, when you send your child a message, you don't always hear right away. And we think that's actually fine. You can always reach us. The adults are always available. And one of the things we give you when you come and register for the beginning of the year is you get a list that has every single faculty's cell phone number. And that's me included. So you can always find any adult. We don't carry our phones and look at them either. We abide by the rule, but we are reachable and we have landlines. So that's the rule, and it's really embraced by our students. I will say, in terms of where the pendulum is swinging on campus, we have a pretty dedicated group of student leaders who are pushing for more restrictions on the cell phone. They'd like to see us either ban cell phones altogether or use flip phones. So I will say that I don't envision our cell phone policy certainly becoming any looser. And I think we enjoy an incredible luxury of just seeing each other and talking to each other and knowing each other face to face, unmediated, that I don't think any of us would ever trade for anything.
Yeah, I would just add, that was well put, Joy, thank you. I mean, I would just add that for the vast majority of students who are coming into St. Andrews who are new, this is a big change for them. A really big change. And what happens is that when when they get here, they realize that everyone is doing it, especially the older, I mean, of course, the older students, but when you sort of notice the seniors don't have their cell phones, you start to give yourself a little bit of permission to also start following the expectation. And then it does take a while, right? Because these things are addicting. So it does take, maybe a week or two, but then once you sort of really break free, it feels really, really, really good. And that's why the students, by the time they hit their later in their freshman year, definitely their sophomore, junior year, and 100% their senior year, they take ownership of this. It's not us policing, it's really the students, in part because they know that it's good for them school, but they also know it's good for each other. And they care, and we care about each other. So that's a big part of it as well.
And
Yes.
the students tell us the reason they love the policy is because they're happier. They're happier, they know they're happier. And I have parents at drop off after every major break swing by my office and say, I love my child's cell phone habits. A lot of over the last spring break, a lot of families had hosted larger groups of students, and they were kind of in awe of their habit when they're not on campus and they're at someone else's home or whatever. During meals, they stack their cell phones up in a windowsill or whatever. And it's a consistent behavior. Parents report it all the time, and they love it. And so that's great. I call that great digital hygiene for life, right?
Digital hygiene, love it. Absolutely. And I just wanted to close that out, like, because my daughter is currently in 6th grade and very much feeling that like urge that you've probably developed over the course of middle school. And I think it becomes less of a big shift than you think it might be to not be sort of attached to your phone all the time. And the reason it's not as big is because you're having a really good time with people face to face, right? And so that's certainly one of them. But then to assuage another potential concern that I hear from parents a lot, don't worry, we're all reachable, right? We're all in the 21st century. We're not sort of a single payphone on the dorm, as it was perhaps in our time as students. So there's a couple questions, Joy and Will, just about course registration, next steps. So I'll just jump in and say, if you're on this call and you've already committed to St. Andrews, we have a big annual email that goes out on April 15th, and it'll have all of those details. And that whole onboarding process over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, we've gotten down to a science over good practice, and then sort of if good practice wasn't enough, we had to completely reinvent things for a few years due to the pandemic. So we've got a good system. We'll be sending you all of that by next Friday. And then most importantly, we're in touch with you through the whole process. So especially there's 2 or 3 questions about what courses can I take. Melinda Tower, our director of studies, is amazing. Harvey Johnson and Cynthia Porch in the registrar's office and the science department will get all the placement test info to you and all those good things in due course. Then back to a big, all right, this is a big question. So a couple folks on this call are wrestling with a choice between boarding schools, and one of those choices is between sort of big and small. The boarding school world has up to 12 or 1,400 students and down to 100, and we're sort of at 320, 315, which puts us at the smaller end of the middle, I guess. Not small enough to qualify for the Small Boarding Schools Association, but definitely not in the 8 to 1,200 range. So, Joy and Will, just given that sort of frame, what do you see as sort of the distinguishing features between a small school and a large school?
Well, I think this is a great question. I came to St. Andrews, obviously, and then I went on to a university of 6,000, and I was looking for that research university setting that I went to Harvard, and that undergraduate college of about 6,000 and a major research university was the thing I was looking for. So I understand the interest in wanting a bigger place. The reason St. Andrews was the right place for me for high school is because at the scale that we have, we know every kid, and I don't, I I don't mean we, in the abstract, I mean, I know every kid as the head of school and love every single kid at this school. Every single faculty member, knows every student. And then we're able to build relationships with advisees, with students that we coach, with students that we teach. But it's that pastoral care and that nurturing piece, and understanding the students well enough to understand how to motivate them, how to help them find their intrinsic motivation, how to ignite their curiosity. That's the piece where we're co-parenting with you parents, day in and day out. And I think our scale really gives us that. I think the other difference in the scale here is, you can come in and, even as a new student or a younger student, but certainly, as you progress through the school, you can participate, you can start a play, you can, you're on the roster here. And so nobody's on the sidelines at St. Andrews. One of the reasons that we talk about opting in so much is because the necessity when your school is 315, we have to have that. And that's our bread and butter. And so I think, that's the real advantage of the smaller school, is that everybody's in the game, whether it's in the classroom, in the dorm. And it also means, it's hard to be a wallflower here. And I think we serve students really well who are introverts, who are extroverts. It's that mix, but everybody is known and loved, and everybody is seen for everything they can contribute to the community, and encouraged to try new things and get involved and participate. And you're able to do that here.
I could definitely, I don't know if I can add, but I'll try. Certainly it's a place where you will be known. It's that simple. It's like being being in a family with 3 children, or being in a family with 20 children, right? You'll be supported and known and cared for. I know that when I went to, I look back and I think when I went to college, I wish I had gone to maybe a larger college, but I was so happy to go to a school. Actually, at that time, it was only just about 260 students when I came to St. Andrews in the 90s, where I was able to do so many different things, and really so many things at a high level. I was also able to try new things. So I had never played there was a sport I was recruited to go to college for that I hadn't played before my sophomore year at St. Andrews, just because a coach pulled me off of a basketball court and said, you really need to try lacrosse. Like, I think you'd be pretty good at lacrosse. And I tried it and I loved it. And I became very passionate about it. And so I don't think that would have happened at a bigger school. I think it would have had to have already been a lacrosse player when I showed up at another school. And I also love playing soccer. And I love being in the band, what is now called the jazz ensemble, playing the saxophone there. And I didn't have to be very good at the saxophone, but I could still be in it, even though there was a person who was next to me who went to college and majored in music, who was a saxophonist. So I just think that piece, especially that you can do so many different things, it's too early to specialize. It's just too early to specialize. There's a lot of research around that. There's a lot of books you can read about that. There's a lot of autobiographies you can read about that, of very, very successful people who eventually specialized, but not when they were 15. So I guess that's my short answer, but I can certainly talk for a very, very long time about it.
Yeah, and I just said, it's a great question, but particularly for the folks on this call, just know, we have a huge applicant pool, and it's incredibly smart and incredibly talented, and the people we accept because we know that interests you, right? We know that there's a part of you that wants to run from the football field to the jazz rehearsal to this, and it's possible at St. Andrews in ways that you really want to check, is it possible at larger schools, because you do get tracked a little more, you do get specialized, but mostly it just comes down to a schedule conflict, right? Mostly it's just, if the sport and the band rehearses at the same time in a school of 1,200 kids, that's how it's got to be. Here, we just figure it out and we move them so they don't conflict. Can't guarantee we can resolve every conflict, but for the most part, those conflicts have been ironed out. So you really can do all of the amazing things that you want to do in high school. So let's see. Getting close to the end. Any last questions, please do feel free to drop them in. Joy, there was just, this question comes all the time, and particularly thank you for those of you who are on the other side of the world and up pretty late. But it's a parent question, and it's how can I be involved in my child's and my school's life, both from close by and from afar.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have great parents at St. Andrews, and those parents are involved with each other and talking to each other all the time in support of the students. And so one of the great things is when you can't be here, there are 3 other parents or 5 other parents who are at your child's game or performance and cheering them on, and very much aware that you couldn't be here that day, and they're taking them out and spending time with those students. And I think one of the most incredible things that I got from my St. Andrews experience that I probably underestimated at the time when I graduated is the relationships with my friends' parents, who are still in my life. I have one of my classmates has been invited to do a talk at Christiana Hospital. She's a physician up at Harvard. And her mom lives down in Salisbury, and they couldn't quite work out the logistics. So they're both going to stay at my house the night she's giving the talk at Christiana. And I'm so excited to see that mom. I just treasure those relationships. Those people were really important for me. In terms of involvement with the school, we welcome your involvement and your engagement. And we love seeing you at competitions and performances. Parents help. I have a parent coming in from out of town on Friday who we have an investments club, a student investments club, and those students have been dying to get him to sit down with the investments club and talk to them about the investments environment right now. And he's going to do that. He's going to come in and have dinner with the investments club, and then see his son's crew race the next day. So we have parents who are supporting us in all kinds of ways and engagement with the students. And really, we create an amazing environment here, and some might call it a bubble. You're part of that. You're in it. You're in it with us. We're co-parenting with you. You'll find at St. Andrews that we're calling you about your student as much as you're calling us, just to say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? Is this what should we be encouraging the child to do this or try this other thing? And so we welcome your involvement and your engagement. I see parents in the dining hall all the time. We've had parents in chapel services throughout the year and stopping by. I just invited a parent to speak at our Arts Weekend chapel service in a few weeks. Last week, our Palm Sunday speaker was a mom who's a priest. And so we know who you are, and we ask you to do things actually quite a bit when you can. And we love that. We benefit from that. And I think parents love it too. So.
Absolutely. Great. Go, Will. You want
I would just say, I mean, it's an incredible parent body in many ways, because many parents do all sorts of incredible things, or just very interesting human beings in the first place. And it's fun to see them all get together and know each other and really care about each other, and then care about each other's children. So, I mean, I was married here at St. Andrews. I had 5 sets of St. Andrews parents invited to my wedding, which I think is probably pretty, maybe I'm odd, but that's definitely odd. And it's just so good to, it's just so good to see them, and they were so happy to see each other. And we, my friends and I, we all ask about each other's parents every time we see each other. So it's as Joy said, it really is a family, and absolutely includes parents in a really, really big way. I have it, and just sort of going back to that piece about getting to know students and knowing each other's and being in partnership with parents. I had an advisee who earlier this week found out that he was not going to be the school president. He ran for school president. He was one of 8 junior boys who was running to be a school co-president, and he didn't get it. And then later that afternoon, he had a bad game. He had sort of a tough lacrosse game, and he sent me a note just saying, it's really probably one of the worst days I've had in a very, very long time, Mr. Robinson. And I wrote him back, and I was just told him how proud I was again. I'd already said this to him before and throughout the week, just that he was sort of in the arena, that he was putting himself out there to be a school leader, that he was playing a sport, lacrosse, which he had never played before. This is a boy from Sri Lanka, and they don't really have a big lacrosse culture in Sri Lanka. So, but I see him out there, and he's working hard. He's just working hard, and I celebrate that constantly. And so I wrote him back, and I told him all those things, how proud I was of him, and that tomorrow will be a new day. And then I communicated that to his dad, and his dad actually immediately wrote back with a screenshot of a text message that he had sent him, which was essentially echoed exactly the same thing that we had said. And I sent him like, just sort of like a high five that we're in this together with their son, who had a pretty tough day, and he knows that there are adults here on the ground who both share his values and really care a lot about his son. So that's what we do here, especially for people who are from very far away. I know that it must be very hard having children myself, but we take care of them.
Yeah.
I can't resist sharing the last piece of the puzzle because I know who you're talking about. Well, I was in the dining hall, maybe you were too. I was in the dining hall when your advisee saw the student who actually won the co-president election for the first time since the announcement. Did you see it, Matt?
No,
He ran full speed down the center of the dining hall, tackled the guy in a huge hug and congratulated him.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, so the student who won, a past advisee of mine, an amazing tennis player, just a great young guy. And for anyone on this call who's like nervous about coming to St. Andrews, like he was so nervous as a freshman, and he just won the presidency, and he came, we hugged and, congratulations, so proud. And, if you ever want any advice, or, if I can ever, he said, well, first piece of advice is how do I approach my friends who didn't get it? Right. And that's that combination of just like, he wanted something, he worked hard to get it, he won it. And then his immediate reaction is, how can I help someone else? Right. And that's what leadership's all about here.
And he didn't have to worry because the kids who didn't get it were running across the dining hall to give him a hug and congratulate him. So that's the beautiful thing about the school.
Yeah. Great. Well, Joy, Will, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, which I think brings us sort of to the close. A good 45-minute session. This is the closing conversation. So I'll leave a little space for Will and for Joy, but just say from the admissions office, on behalf of all of us, from Megan Canalongo, the first person you talked to when you made your appointment, Kim Bird, who managed your applications, your interviewer, we're all just so proud of you. We're so excited that many of you will be Saints next year, and we really hope those of you who are still considering will become Saints next year. So with that, Will, Joy, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I would just say, and I'll pass it to Joy. I mean, I would just say how excited we are for next year. This is, as Joy started us. These are, we are three people who care very, very deeply about this school. We don't take this opportunity lightly at all. And so just really excited at this possibility to see you all here together and just helping to continue to push this place to meet our goals of making sure that we are making our mark in this world. And having young students, young people who want to go out and do that. It's very, very exciting. And you would not be here on this webinar. You would not have received an acceptance if we didn't believe 100% that you were someone who could do that. So we hope you join us for sure. Many of you are, but those of you who are still considering, we really hope you do.
Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. For those of you, I know a lot of you have already decided to join us next year, and we're so excited. We're so excited about that, and I can't wait to welcome you on move-in day. And for those of you who are still making the decision, thank you for being here. We absolutely believe in you. We believe you belong here. We believe you belong at St. Andrews, and that it's going to be a great place for you to flourish and become the person that you want to be, and the person that the world needs you to be. So I look forward to having all of you here in the fall. And if there's anything we can do between now and Monday, just let us know.
Right. Will, Joy, thank you. I'll see you out at the races.
Yes.
Everyone on the call. If you're celebrating this weekend, happy Easter. Have a wonderful family weekend, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Bye, everybody.